episodes.
We need a bit every time. Otherwise...
No, I'm making a joke. I understand. I'm just making it.
We need a bit, Ren.
We need a bit?
No one's gonna like us if we don't have a bit.
Well, women aren't funny, so...
Welcome back to the Kill Your Normie podcast, where we go deep on fandom and nerd culture. I'm Lindsey.
And I'm Ren, the most virgin thing after the Mary. I don't know, it popped into my head.
Okay. That's a way to start.
Mm-hmm.
Let's set the scene for the listeners, because we've gotten a little, we've had a little upgrade.
Yeah.
We're still figuring things out, but...
I'm still on the floor. I'm still beneath everyone.
Yeah, we still tried to... I'm off the floor, luckily, because I got a lovely desk stand, or desk rig for my microphone, and then we bought a second microphone for Ren, who unfortunately is still on the floor because we couldn't get them close enough to the mic with the desk. It's gonna get somewhere with time, folks. Yeah. You gotta believe us. I promise.
You gotta bear with us here.
But in this case, Ren projecting is actually working based on what I'm hearing. So,
yes, awesome.
So your normal speaking volume is now acceptable.
Excellent.
And I have to pull back a little.
I get passionate. You want to start with headshots?
Yes, let's start with headshots. You go first.
Okay, so Switch 2 pre-orders have finally started.
Woo!
As of April 24th. We'll be recording before April 24th, but this will be coming out after. So if you have a chance, try to get one of those pre-orders in, because I know it's going to be a bloodbath. And then the other thing I have to add is that the new anime season has started, and I've got 2 shows currently on my docket right now. Both slice of life. I'm doing Zatsutabi, That's a Journey, which is about a manga artist traveling around Japan in order to gain inspiration, and I'm also doing Food for the Soul, which is about college girls learning how to cook.
Nice. So my headshots are, well, today I found out we are, and I kind of already knew this, but, like, we kind of got, like, an official statement. We are getting an Enola Holmes 3, so we can add another Sherlock Holmes. Yeah, which I've been waiting for. I actually really like the Enola Holmes movies, especially, like, having read the books and things. I think they're good adaptations. I like them. They're fun. I even like the music and, like, how it's shot. So that's great. And then my second headshot is that Variety is expanding their Actors on Actors series, where they'll get, like, usually 2 award nominated actors. Usually they do this around Oscar season or maybe Emmy season as well. But they're doing a Broadway version. So they're pairing up people like George Clooney and Patti LuPone, who are both on Broadway right now, different shows. So I think those are the first of the set. I don't remember the full list off the top of my head, but I think that's very cool, because Actors on Actors is always rife with some good moments.
Excellent.
Okay, so today's main topic is going to be something that's happening next Saturday.
It's going to be May 3rd.
It's going to be May 3rd, and it happens every year, and it's Free Comic Book Day. And we've only really participated, well, I've participated, like, it'll be 3 years in a row now. I think your first one was
last year. I mean, I knew of it. I just hadn't gone to one.
Yeah, because my first one I went to was, like, by happenstance, because Dad and I were in New York, because we were visiting, I think our uncle was in town. So we were visiting him. We thought we were going to see a show. We ended up not. And
you went to Midtown Comics, didn't you?
We went to Midtown Comics because it happened to coincide. Yeah. Like, I figured out it coincided with Free Comic Book Day. So we did it at Midtown Comics, which I actually liked how they did it, because they just gave them all to you in, like, a bag.
Oh, wow.
And then the last year, you, me, Dad.
We went to a local.
Went to a local place called Matt's Cards and Comics. Shout out. They're really cool because they do a food drive in tandem with Free Comic Book Day.
We need to bring food this time.
We need to bring food this time, because we didn't know going in.
Yeah.
We will bring food this time. But yeah, we went and did that. And that one was different because they laid them out on a table.
You could just pick what you wanted.
Which I think was a little better, because I still have my comics from Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah.
And some of them are, like, for young children and, like, not something I'd read. But there's, like, stuff from series I didn't even know existed. But yeah.
I ended up picking up a graphic novel at the time, actually, because it was a misprint. So the the creators decided to just give it out the misprint specifically for Free Comic Book Day, and it came in with an insert with what was supposed to actually be printed, which I thought was actually pretty cool. The comic was good. It was How to Tour Without Losing Your Mind, I believe.
Is it about the cartoonist? I think.
No, it was about, so basically the entire premise is it's autobiographical, and it's How to Completely Lose Your Mind. That's what it's called. If I could remember the artist's name, that would be great. But it's about basically these two people. They are a musical duo where one of them will perform the music at various places, and during the show, the artist will do a painting completely during the show, and then usually give it away to an audience member or raffle it off. And they decided to break the world record for quickest time to perform 50 shows in 50 states.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That actually that's like totally different than what I thought it was. I may borrow that from you.
Yeah. They're not the official world record because there was a lot of different requirements to be the official world record, but they were pretty damn fast.
Okay. That's cool, actually. What was the misprint? Was it like...
They printed a page twice.
Oh, okay. That's like not bad.
Yeah.
I own 2 books with misprints, one of which was printed completely upside down. And the other has like a complete paragraph that repeats, not on purpose.
I have a misprint of a book that I was actually really interested in, and I got like halfway through it, and then all of a sudden the book repeated.
Oh my gosh!
Like I was reading this one page, and then all of a sudden it started talking about a boat. I didn't know where this boat came from, but clearly from a previous chapter.
You should keep misprinted books, for people who don't know, are actually quite valuable, which is the only reason why I have not gotten rid of the 2 that I have.
It's somewhere in my room. Yeah.
I did buy another copy of the one that was printed upside down because that was just really hard to read. But anyways, so we're talking about Free Comic Book Day. Basically we're going to kind of go through like some titles that are interesting. Free Comic Book Day does have an official website and official social media channels. You can just look it up. I think it's freecomicbookday.com. I'll put the website in the show notes.
They've got 46 titles up for grabs right now.
Yes. So I think we're going to start with kind of like talking about some of the titles. It's freecomicbookday.com/catalog if you want to go see what's available this year. And so I have a list of titles that I'm excited for. I have like 3. Do you want me to go through mine?
Let's do one. We'll swap.
Okay. So my first one, it's a Marvel Voices Ironheart. Marvel Voices is usually like a comic series that definitely depicts some of the more diverse cast of Marvel characters. Obviously, Riri Williams is Ironheart. She's getting a series on Disney Plus this June. So I think that's why they're putting out something for her. I think when I went to Midtown Comics, it was Marvel Voices. I ended up buying a Marvel Voices, and I think it was Silk from the Spider-Verse. And she's of Asian descent, so like that was a little different. I think it was Across the Spider-Verse. It might have been multiple female spider people, but so that's my first one.
So, for my picks, I mean, I did go through because there are 3 manga offerings, so I'll just start with the first one. The first one is, it's a double feature. All these are double features. It's Tower and Dungeon and Isaac, which are both seinen manga, and that means basically it's a manga. It's manga advertised towards adult men, but it can be enjoyed by all genders. And that is being released by Kodansha USA Publishing, and then Tower and Dungeon and Isaac are both having their first volumes being released in English this year as well, so that's a little promo for them.
Oh, nice. It's like good, because I knew they had like multiple genres. It's just the only ones I ever see are the superhero ones or like the kids ones. So I don't I know they had like some Archies as well. I think
they did have one Archie, which is also on my list.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, my second one is a Gargoyles comic.
Of course, it's Gargoyles.
If you've read Fangirls My Core, the Substack that this podcast originates on, I did write a whole thing on Gargoyles like last summer. I think I had a cold, and I just ended up watching a lot of Gargoyles, which has been on my list forever. So it's Gargoyles Demona, who's one of their female gargoyle characters from the original series. She's not like, I know that they've expanded out since the show. I'm not even done with the show yet, but Demona she's a bit of an anti-heroine. She's definitely switched sides like multiple times. So women's wrongs.
Face revolving door.
Women's wrongs, really. And what's next?
So my next manga offering is probably one that, if you're into the manga space, you're gonna recognize at least one of these titles. It is Kagurabachi and Boruto, Two Blue Vortex, which is being published by Viz Media in the US, but they were originally published through Shonen Jump and Shueisha. Kagurabachi is for the girls and the gays. It's about a boy who's trying to... I've only read the first chapter, but it's basically about a boy who's trying to avenge his father's death after he basically made a whole bunch of swords that now people use to kill people, as you do with swords. Boruto is Naruto's son, which I feel that explains everything. Both of these are available also physically in the West, either through your local bookstores or also available digitally through the Shonen Jump app.
Okay, nice. Let's see, what is my last one? My last one is going to be another one that like is going to have a media tie-in. It's Fantastic. It's Fantastic Four / X-Men. So it's a crossover comic event, which definitely makes sense considering the Fantastic Four has been confirmed for Avengers Doomsday along with the X-Men. So that's going to be interesting to see. Again, Fantastic Four, I actually know very little about. X-Men, I'm starting to learn about. I'm watching the movies, read a couple of things. So curious. And most of these, by the way, are standalones. Like, if you don't read comics, most of these have nothing to do with any previous series or anything like that. So usually they try to keep them pretty self-contained. So that's good to know. But those are my 3.
My last one is the Children's Manga Offering. And these are also 2 recognizable franchises. We have Minecraft the Manga.
Of course.
And Beyblade X, which is something that I know that you probably don't.
I mean, I know Beyblade. Like, I grew up with Beyblade.
Yeah, they were really cool. Long-running Beyblade comics.
That was, like, one of the kids' toys, like, one of the boy kids' toys that when I was in elementary school, I really wanted so bad.
I used a couple of them. They were pretty fun.
So cool.
They're just fancy tops.
I just wasn't allowed to, be in the Beyblade. Yeah. Beyblade battles.
No, I would watch kids do Beyblade battles during indoor recess.
Indoor recess.
Yeah.
The kids today don't know. Yeah. They don't know.
Those are being published by Viz Media. They're both originally published in Koro Koro Comic, which was published by Shogakukan, which means that we have all big 3 manga publishers represented here, and both are also currently released in English as well.
Nice.
I do have 3 runner-ups.
You have 3 runner-ups?
I have 3 runner-ups, because
continue.
This is basically me going through the manga, but these are my 3, like, American runner-ups. So Archie... I've actually been debating getting into Archie, because I used to read Archie like when I was in middle school.
I didn't know that.
Well, because I got into the Sonic comics through Archie.
Oh, so you're ruined now.
Yeah, I'm ruined. But yeah, I thought about picking up Archie again. This one, there's no cover for it. There was no blurb for it, but I really, really like this title. It's I Hate Fairyland.
Oh, is it like a to be announced later thing?
It's a to be like the cover was like to be announced later. It was just pink.
Oh, okay.
That's what they showed. But I'm really, really intrigued by that title, so I'm gonna look for that one as well. And then the last one is IDW Dark, Find Your New Fear, which looks like it's going to be a collection of horror comics.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. Mm-hmm. So that's like stuff you're into.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
I'm trying to expand my horizons.
So we aren't just going to talk about like publications and things that are coming out this comic book day, free comic book day. We're going to kind of discuss, because Ren and I have differing tastes when it comes to graphic novels of any kind.
Any sort of graphic media.
Yeah, I'm definitely more on the like superhero western side.
You're a DC Marvel, mostly Marvel.
Mostly Marvel. I'd like to get into DC, but I have to like find who I'm into there. But also like other graphic novels that are self-contained that are not tied to any superhero thing. Like there was one that I got actually at Matt's like months ago called Beast by Laurie Churchland.
Yes,
Churchland. This will be in the show notes, but it was Beast by Marian Churchland. I am so sorry to Marian. I will put her name in the show notes. She's Patreon, actually. So she, or maybe it's like Laurie Marchland. I think that was her name. But that one was really cool. I really liked the art in that, and that's something I've liked. And I've had like graphic novels throughout my life, but like I've never been a manga person.
Yeah, for me, I've always loved comics. Just comics in general. The only thing I wasn't able to really get into was like superhero comics. But like I was always like a newspaper comic person. Like I
like comic strips.
I liked comic strips as a kid, especially because like remember we had the whole Peanuts like collection.
Well, I have the Calvin and Hobbes in the.
We had Calvin and Hobbes. Yeah. My dad gave me his really old Garfield comics. Like all of them. He had like 10. They're like from the 70s. I still have them, and loved like a comic strip. And then I used to read a lot of graphic novels. I started reading a lot of graphic novels as a kid as well. Like one of my biggest memories of like school book fairs was there was a novel released by Raina Telgemeier called Smile, which is a huge deal, and it was sold out by the time my class got to the book fair, and I was so pissed.
I never imagined things getting sold out at the
Yeah,
Scholastic
oh
Book
no,
Fair.
that was day one. We went there Tuesday.
Oh man,
It was gone.
that sucks.
And then I was also supposed to do a comic strip for my school's newspaper, but that fell through because we never ended up doing the school newspaper.
Yeah, we really didn't. High school or middle school?
This was 6th grade, 5th grade.
I always wanted to start a school newspaper. We never had one
And then
in any of our schools.
And then my first like manga experience was like when I was in 4th grade. They had some manga in the kids section, and I bought 2 manga volumes, and it was Kanen Fairy Idol, and the other one was Big Adventures of Majoko, which is like about a little witch girl. And I never ended up getting the follow-ups for them, but I really, really liked them as a kid, and then I never really got like back into manga until later. And then I also read a lot of the Sonic comics.
Oh,
The Sonic Archie comics. Which they're okay. They're okay. I have my favorite characters, but like they're fine. Read the reboot, but it's much better.
Yeah, so we thought we'd talk about like the differences between manga practices and comic book practices, and kind of like our differences in taste and things like that, which we had like a preliminary discussion when we were doing production meeting for this. But so we kind of went into like some of our personal tastes and like things like that. So I think you should start just because you kind of know some of the distribution quirks and things like
with manga.
Yeah, like what do you find the biggest differences are?
So the biggest differences I think with manga is that like when I think of like an American comic book, I think of, as I've learned, this is what they're called, floppies.
I didn't know they were called.
They're called floppies apparently, according to our comic books. They're called floppies. But those are basically like your single issues, the $5 you can pick up at your comic book store. The difference with manga is that in Japan, it's all distributed through basically magazines. So you'll get like this basically like every week or every month you'll get this big chunky magazine with just a bunch of different chapters of what they're publishing at the time. And then later they'll release the chapters of a specific thing as what are called tankobon, which are basically just volumes. So they'll basically just have like 10 chapters in one book, and then that's volume 1. And then those eventually get, if they're popular enough, get transported over to the West.
Okay, because we kind of do obviously like they come out in floppies.
Yeah.
Like the single chapter. We usually don't get multiple chapters in one place, or like big bind ups like with multiple chapters like you talked about. But eventually with like for example, like right now I'm reading the new X-23 comics, Laura Kinney Wolverine. Right now that's publishing, so I have like chapters 1 through 5, I want to say. And usually when they bind them up, it's like they only do like 1 through 3. And then you have to get the second volume for like 3 through 6.
I mean, that's basically the same thing with manga. It's the same thing. Yeah. Because like I've been buying Chainsaw Man and Tokyo Revengers as they've come out, because that's one of my favorites, long runnings right now. But I have like 14 volumes of Chainsaw Man. So like it's still like you only get like a certain amount of chapters and then you have to buy the next volume. So it's very similar in that sense. The big difference I think is that the manga's originally published in like these big magazines, whereas comics tend to be single issue. Yeah, I think that's the biggest difference between the two.
I don't know if like I'd prefer like having a bunch in one. I feel like what would they cost? Because I feel like you'd get more bang for your buck that way.
I'm not quite sure.
Because like a floppy here, like at least based off the prices I've seen recently, because I just bought like a Laura Kinney like 2 weeks ago, $3 for one.
I'm thinking it's like, I wouldn't know off the top of my head, but like they have to be pretty cheap, because this is something like kids go out and they buy them at the fucking.
I'd love to see
store.
I'd love to see a comparison, but if we don't have the numbers,
usually it's like 10 different comics within like a magazine. It can expand, and also it can change from week to week.
See, I feel like here they would probably try to charge $30 for it, because they'd be like, there's 10 in here.
Well, I think,
or maybe they'd like bring it down to 25 and call it a deal.
The difference also between manga and regular comics is that manga is also on cheaper paper.
That's true. Well, floppies,
but floppies they're full color.
They are, yeah, they are.
Full color. Manga's black and white.
It's not the best paper stock. It is shiny though.
Yeah, it's shiny.
Whereas the bind ups are like nice.
Yeah, manga's like that. That's like novel paper. Like if you cracked open like a book, like it's even like a little slightly less quality than a novel.
Yeah.
And that's about the same with the magazines too. It's I wouldn't say like cheap, but like it's black and white, so you don't need to worry about having like the full color copier paper. So that also cuts down on production costs. It's really American comics that do like that big, like full color spread.
Which is weird because like America, I don't really. This is such a discussion right now. America, I don't really think of as quality when it comes to stuff.
It's interesting, right?
It's just, yeah, like the fact that like our comics and stuff are like so much nicer, because even like buying a bind up doesn't costs more than like if I just bought the 3 comics. Like, yeah, so let's say like 3 Laura Kinney comics based off the price I paid, $9, and then like bind ups are like $15 to $18, maybe $20, and that's like 3 issues. Yeah. And I'm like, it costs me less to do. Also, the great thing, and I don't know if there's like a manga equivalent of this, so I recently found out, because the reason why I started buying Laura Kinney was because on Marvel Unlimited, all they have is her first issue. And I don't know
she's
if that's...
superhero, she writer, sorry.
Laura Kinney is Wolverine. The female Wolverine.
Oh, okay, okay. I did not know that.
Yeah. So X-23 is like the science name she was given because she's a clone.
Okay.
But Laura Kinney's her name. And I ended up having to buy hers from Newbury Comics because we are in New England. Because Marvel Unlimited only had her first issue. But what I found out was inside each comic now, especially Marvel, I don't know what DC's situation is, they give me a code where I can get it digitally as well. So it is in my digital library on top of everything else, which is kind of nice.
I have not seen that with manga, digital manga distribution. I have not seen that. Basically, it's because I mostly use the Jump app, but I've just started using the Kodansha app as well. And with the Jump app, it's basically you pay a subscription and you get access to everything, but there's no way to like import what you already have into the app.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised to find out. I thought actually even it was only certain ones, and apparently it's most of them. So I was really surprised. And that's nice for me too, because sometimes like I don't have to carry them around, or if I want to reread, I got them.
You can also buy the volume in the app and just have them there for like you to read whenever. But I think the subscription's like it's like $3 a month. So like I feel like it's cost effective.
We talked about this. Yeah. This was like, was this the new one you were using? Where
no,
you were kind of like...
no. Kodansha has a weird program that I don't like. Whereas Kodansha's not subscription based. It is either points or ticket based. Where basically it means that, because I was reading, I had picked up one really, really interesting manga up there, and it's basically just like you get like 5 tickets or something a day, which means you can read 5 chapters. After that, you have to pay per chapter.
That's weird.
And
That's weird.
The funny thing is that like this manga was only like 30 chapters, really good. Got right to the end. It's like, hey, this is the last chapter coming up. And I'm like, cool. So I go to use my ticket on the last chapter, and it's like, nah. You have to pay for this one.
That's weird.
And, yeah, I did not like that.
That's like, and by the way, because we did like in our last episode, we did talk about like price of art and like certain types of payment methods. This is weird because it's a company doing this, not because the artist decided, hey, I can't keep doing this for free.
No. The manga itself was A Mother's Love, a Daughter's Prison, which it's very good. So if you get the chance to read it, do read it. But it's just a weird, like, I can't read that last chapter unless I'm willing to shell out another $2-3.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I mean, I still think it's worth it to have the app because I really like expanding my kind of perception of manga, and because it's such a wide-ranging medium. And I got into it just because it seemed, I don't want to like exoticize it or anything like that, but it was a lot different than the comics that I would see in the West. I mean, like probably like one of the biggest differences I think is that like manga has genre, but manga also has demographic, which is very, very powerful in the industry. Because basically, the way nearly all manga come out, not everything, because there's still like web manga and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of mainstream manga comes out in the same way, where basically they're published through a magazine, and then they go to like a book print after they get enough chapters, and every single magazine has a specific demographic in mind, and there's 4, well technically 5, but one of them's, so basically you have Kodomo, which is children, so that's like your Pokemon, your Pokemon Adventures manga. You have the big boy shonen, which is like your Naruto, your Dragon Ball. your Chainsaw Mans, your Demon Slayers.
That's like boys.
It's young boys, like teenagers.
Oh, teenagers.
Like
when you said young
boys.
boys, I was thinking like kids.
Yeah, let's say like maybe like that 11 to 15, 16-year-old demographic. But it's very widely enjoyed. Like, again, the demographic doesn't mean that, like, women can't enjoy it, that older men can't enjoy it, all that kind of stuff. But it's aimed towards that specific audience. It usually has, like, immature jokes, you know, like, female characters that, you know, like, they're, like, hot girls and stuff like that. You know, it's teen boy stuff. It's teen boy stuff, which is, you know, it can be fun. Like, I love Chainsaw Man, and there's awful diversity within the demographic. Like, you have something like Akane Banashi, which is literally about Rakugo, which is Japanese storytelling, and it has a female protagonist who is not sexualized at all, which is awesome.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I love Akane Banashi. It's huge shout out to them. It's great. It's great. And then you have the older brother of shonen, which would be seinen, which is older men. And that's usually darker themes. Death Note's shonen. But like it also has like seinen's where you also get like weird stuff. Like that's where you get like a lot of the slice of life stuff. Like one of my favorite manga of all time is Azumanga Daioh, which is literally about 5 girls who go to high school and just get into shenanigans. Just regular high school girl shenanigans. But that's a seinen manga. And it's not like it's seinen manga because it's raunchy or anything like that. It's just people are nostalgic for high school. And so it's high school girls just doing high school girl things.
Oh, but it's aimed at adults.
It's aimed at adults.
Okay.
Yeah. And then on the flip side of the gender demographic, you have shoujo, which is young girls. So that's your Sailor Moon. But that's also, like, your Rose of Versailles and your Cruel God Reigns, which is a fantastic manga that I cannot find a copy of. But it's also your Utena, which is a very, very influential manga and very, very dark. But that's also shoujo. And then the older sister, which is Josei, which no one ever talks about, because no one talks about adult women. But that's, like, your office romances and a lot of, like, stuff about, like, after marriage and all that kind of stuff. So demographics play a huge role in manga, and so it's really easy to find something just based off of demographic, but it can also attribute to some misogyny, because shoujo manga doesn't really get as much acclaim as a shonen.
Mm-hmm.
Even seinen doesn't really get as much acclaim as shonen. But I love all of it. I have favorites in, like, all the different demographics, and there's so many different genres, too. I think the biggest barrier, though, you've told me about this, it's a cultural thing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of manga is Japanese and takes place in Japan, and so there's a cultural aspect to it. I mean, straight up, when you buy a manga, you have to read it from an English perspective, front to back, or back to front.
Mm-hmm.
It's opposite, so you have to get over that barrier. But there's also, like, certain things like senpai kohai trying to depict keigo, which is, like, polite language in translation and stuff like that. All those kind of things that just little cultural things.
Yeah.
Which you find those difficult, don't you?
Maybe not, like, not the reading back to front sort of thing, because
Mm-hmm.
even, like, sometimes even with Western comics, because I've explained to you, sometimes I do prefer reading them digitally, because sometimes, especially if they get interesting with format of the page, I do have to have my eye guided a little bit.
Yeah.
So I do, like, Marvel Unlimited, I like that because it does guide me to what I'm supposed to be looking at first, and then it'll, especially if it's like a really well drawn page, or they're like do something cool with the framing and the different, like, you know, panels and things, it will zoom out at the end, like it gives me all the little details and then it puts the picture together, and I do prefer that. I actually find, like, there's definitely some, like, cultural stuff. I think, like, even, like, the polite language sometimes like gets to me because it feels unnatural maybe to me, and after a while I kind of get a little fed up with it.
I mean, there's some things like with honorifics, because that's not something we have in English. And so if you're not used to it, it does kind of come out of nowhere. Like when I was first getting into, like, manga and anime, I thought the term senpai, which means, like, upperclassman, basically, or like you're someone who's, like, started earlier than you at a job, but you're, like, still in, like, kind of within the same.
Well, I was on 2010 Tumblr, so Notice Me Senpai was
Notice Me Senpai. But when I was a kid, when I was first getting into, like, it, and I first heard the term senpai, I just, because the character was using it to refer to, like, basically her friends, I was just like, oh, it means, like, friend. And that's not what it means. There's a cultural aspect to it. And there's also certain cultural, like, Japanese cultural things that get lost in translation. Like, they have different first-person pronouns than we do. Because, like, us, it's just I. Where they have, like, watashi, which is, like, polite but also feminine, and then Boku would be like impolite but masculine, and then Ore is really, really masculine. And we don't have that. It's very difficult for us to kind of depict that in a translation.
I want to talk about like demographics for a second, because you were talking about how it seems very clear cut where you are. Because with Marvel specifically, and again, I know that like Marvel, DC, the superhero stuff can span from very fun and light to very dark. It's so unclear to me sometimes, because they do have age things on the front of them, but like in like, for example, if I'm reading it through the app, it's not really specified. But the where they draw the line is sort of funny to me, because again, you've got like such clear ages. So I was joking with my friend, because I was reading one of the Winter Soldier ones. It was probably came out in like 2013. It's unclear to me what time period it takes place in. I'm pretty sure it has to do with Cold War, but it's Marvel, so everybody's kind of ageless and like lives outside of time. But it was just funny to me that like there is like a scene, Bucky and Natasha date in the comics. They're like together. There's a scene where they've clearly had sex. They are naked in the bed, like no full frontal
Pillow
nothing.
Pillow talk.
Yes. Dude can't say fuck. Like, in the next panel, he says, like, frickin'. And I'm like, you're in the middle of being shot and you can't say fuck. And I said this to my friend, and she was just like, I can't believe adult sex haver in the Marvel comic can't say fuck.
Well, that's actually really, really interesting, because, like, the attitudes towards, like, violence and nudity in, like, Western comics versus, like, manga is also very different. Because, like...
I can sense that. I think that's kind of what's kind of, like, excuse the phrase, turned me off.
Yeah. I mean, it really depends on the comic. It really depends, because something like a shoujo or a josei is going to treat things very differently than a shonen will. But like, you have the Splatoon comic where one of the main character, one of his like running gags is stuff that he's like pantsing people. Like full nudity pantsing people.
Oh my god.
And he likes like undressing and stuff like that. And this is aimed for children. And it's just like, haha, naked people are funny. But like that's something that would not
fly in the
that
US,
would not fly here. Or like you have Chainsaw Man, which is like, again, geared towards young children, and it's literally about a guy. First of all, it's very violent and gory, and second of all, the guy's main motivation is that he wants to get some. He wants to either touch a titty, kiss a girl, or like get laid. Like I'm not exaggerating right now. That is an entire character motivation, and yet it makes me cry.
But is it what demographic would you say that?
Shonen. That's shonen. That's for young teenagers.
Young teenagers. Okay.
But even still, like young kids will still read this.
See, it's interesting to me because like I was watching this morning just because like I put it on in the background. 10 Things I Hate About You. That movie. That's aimed at teens. It is like the amount of like the fact that like all these guys just want to like get some is such an obvious plot point. Like it's not even just like I want to get with this girl or make out or feel her up or whatever. They want to have like sex with the girls. Like they you know, they don't explicitly say it, but like all the slang is used and everything. And like that's aimed at teens. But it's like interesting to think like
but even then like that's
like
more
comics
like, there's nothing depicting it. It's in the language, but it's not
that's
depicted.
True.
In Chainsaw Man, they get very close.
Yeah, and also and I was reading some other more recent Marvel comics. Like I was reading the White Widow series with Yelena. And also I'm reading Thunderbolts now too, which has like kind of a revolving cast of characters. And they swear, but it's always either blacked out or they do the like comics like
the wingdings type
the
thing.
Wingdings thing. Yeah, they do that. So I'm like
that's not the actual term. I don't
even know what they're rated, and that's the thing because I'm reading them on the app. There's no rating on the front of a cover like there is like in the store.
Very interesting, actually.
But I'm just like these are adults. Like and the comics will get like more gory and violent than the movies will. Although I am watching Daredevil and that can get pretty gnarly. So it's very weird to me because like especially like in discourse about superheroes in general, they're always like, "Well, it's for kids. Who cares?" And I'm like, "Is it though?"
Not every superhero is for kids.
No,
or even like
or every
clean superheroes. Not every depiction of them is
every
for kids.
Yeah, because
like Superman has some dark.
Superman has some dark ones, and that's why they've been saying this new one is based off All-Star Superman, which from what I understand is the colorful one and the bright one. And obviously Batman has his goofy things, and I only know Batman really from the movies, not the comics, but like obviously
I only
like
know him from Lego Batman.
But, like, that's campy.
Yeah.
And, like, the 60s one is campy.
Mhm.
And Tim Burton's one is kind of campy.
Mm.
But then you get, like, Dark Knight, and you also get R. Patz's
I slept
version.
through Dark Knight. That's a fun fact
You
about me.
slept through Dark Knight.
I slept through Dark Knight.
We're gonna watch that again.
I know.
Because that's a
My
masterpiece.
English teacher was very impressed.
That's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
We are watching that again. But yeah, it's very weird to me, like, especially with comic books, because I am like, who is this aimed at exactly? Because maybe back in the day, yeah, it was aimed at kids. Like, maybe.
Well, I think nowadays, like, your average kid isn't gonna know where to pick up a comic.
Unless they're, like, a huge nerd.
Unless they're, like, a huge fucking nerd, or their dad's a huge fucking nerd. Or their mom's a huge fucking nerd. Or their parents a huge fucking nerd. We are gender neutral here. But, like, because, like, back in the day, you could pick up comic books at, like, any fucking grocery store. Or, like, any fucking, like, in Japan, you can pick up comics at any fucking grocery store. Well, nowadays, like, a kid is not gonna find that. They're not gonna find comic books at the grocery store. You have to go specifically to comic book stores.
I can't find a magazine anymore, Ren.
Yeah.
I have to go to the bookstore.
Yeah.
I've been looking for one Empire magazine for like a month.
So I think because of that, comics have very much shifted demographic. That's not to say that there aren't children's comics still out there.
Oh, there 100% is. Like,
yeah.
I could pull out my crate right now and go through.
Even on Free Comic Book Day, there was a whole bunch of children's.
Well,
comics.
yeah, they had like the Spidey Friends, like stuff that's based off like the kids' cartoons.
There's actually like something called like Polar Bear Hero or something like that looked very cute.
Yeah, there's a lot for like young kids.
Yeah,
which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not interested in them, but like, yeah, like I'm just pulling up the website now. They have a Dr. Seuss one.
Yeah.
I see.
Bad Kitty. Bad Kitty's for like elementary schools.
Yeah, Bad Kitty. Oh my god, they have Speed Racer. We gotta tell Mom.
Yeah, it's an American version though.
I don't think she cares.
Yeah.
She just thinks he's cute. Fun fact, and we're gonna embarrass our mom on live right now. It's not live, but it's fine. We're gonna put Mom on blast. Mom is really into Speed Racer. Or she was.
She was.
Let's be clear. She's not into Speed Racer now, but she loved Speed Racer as a kid.
Since her genes got into me, that's why I'm like this.
Yeah. So, but even, I'm looking at, Creaky Acres. That's like a horse girl comic. Bring out my inner horse girl.
Where's the bear?
Black Mirror gets comics, which is definitely for more adult people, and also Star Wars is publishing comics.
There was also IDW. Oh, there's actually a couple Star Wars comics, because there's one for kids, and then there's a couple for adults as well.
Yeah, and we got one on Will Eisner.
Yeah.
Who is a
very prolific comic artist.
Yeah, I like that they're doing that.
I actually found a manga version of Charles Schultz's biography the other day.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah. They drew him very cute.
Which is weird because he was so depressed. There's
Charles Schultz is the reason Sanrio exists.
I did not know that.
Well, not Sanrio specifically. Hello Kitty.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they have something.
That's a story for another
They have
day.
something called Toy Box, which is all ages.
That looks like a children's.
That also looks like a compilation of some kind. So there's a lot here. There's varying in age group. They've got Powerpuff Girls too.
But like once you get out of like the children's demographic, it can be difficult to determine like, is this good for my 13-year-old or is this for my 23-year-old?
Yeah. So it's, I do like yours is a bit more clear cut because again, like with mine, I'm an adult, so it's whatever I read, I won't be scandalized by. But there's some things where I'm like, it's not really clear. And if you're just like some kid and you're going into the comic book store for the first time and you're picking up like a number one of something.
Picking up The Boys.
Oof. Well, The Boys is not currently publishing, so I don't know how well, like, if I'm just saying if you're picking up like a floppy, like a single.
Yeah.
I don't, again, like, I can't even imagine because like The Boys is Image Comics, I think. It's not DC, so. It's not Marvel. Yeah. Because you also have to think about the studios too, because Marvel, again, spans the chasm. DC kind of spans the chasm. I wonder if Image Comics is known for, like, more adult,
I'd have to look into
stuff.
it more. I know Dark Horse is.
Dark Horse. I think they might have followed us on Instagram. I'm not sure.
By the
way, plug. We have an Instagram now. It's Kill Your Normie Pod Instagram. Go follow us. There's no posts up there yet, but... follow us there.
Actually, that's another thing that's different about manga studios versus fucking American studios. Fucking Americans. But like specifically like talking about like a Marvel or a DC,
hmm
you have basically a company that owns a bunch of characters and then assigns people to those characters.
Yeah, well, I mean, we kind of do that too, but it's only for certain. I
Well,
like
that's what I'm saying about DC and Marvel.
we do that. Yeah,
Mhm.
we do that as well.
With manga, it's basically how a lot of artists are found is that they literally have the readers submit their own stories. And basically they'll submit them through contests, and then if the editors like them enough, they might pick them up for a serialized thing, and then so it's the characters are basically, it feels like with a lot of like DC Marvel comics, the characters are owned by the company.
Oh yeah.
Whereas with like a Shonen Jump, the characters are still owned by the artist.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's Japanese copyright law or if that's just
I think it might just be the way it just set up.
possibly, yeah. Because I mean, but we were also talking about this in the preliminary discussion we had about it, which was you were talking about how you like in manga, it's the same writer from beginning to end.
Yes.
Whereas my stuff can switch writers and
Like
artists.
within an issue.
No, not within an issue. So I think that's like a misconception. So you are assigned. I'd compare a comic, and again, I could be completely wrong. This is like just based off what I've observed. Because my first instance of seeing a series go away was Gwenpool, because I got really into Gwenpool last year, and
She's iconic.
She's iconic, and they're bringing her back in a weird way, but we won't get into that right now. I didn't understand that comics run a bit like television. Like it's interesting. So you get like a series, you have a team, you have your writers, you have your artists, and like, you know, kind of creative voice, and like that group handles this version of this character. And with Gwenpool, I don't know if her thing got canceled due to poor readership. I'm not really sure what caused it to go because it was done by the time I found it. But in story, it was kind of like the only way Gwenpool could continue is if she became a bad guy.
Yeah.
That's kind of how they played it, which I thought was lazy, but I think it was just what they had to do because it was going to end. Whereas like now I'm kind of like jumping from thing to thing where like I'm going through and like I like the team that's writing X-23, Laura Kinney. I was like, I like that, and I like that art style.
Yes.
What's helpful with like Marvel Unlimited, the app or whatever, I can actually follow those people to wherever they go. But there's also like the old Winter Soldier one that I'm reading, which was through the library actually, guys. Hoopla, if your library has Hoopla, they've got a really good comic selection if you like superheroes. But like the Winter Soldier one I'm reading has like an art style I'm not a huge fan of. Like I don't really like how it's drawn, and like it's a little too like gritty realistic for me. Like I need a little color. But what's weird is like I've dealt with like long-running television shows where the showrunner has changed hands multiple times. Supernatural, I'm looking at you.
Doctor Who.
Yeah, Doctor Who. Yeah, actually, Doctor Who's a great example because Doctor Who actually, also there are comics for Doctor Who, I think has a similar thing where like Doctor Who gets away with a lot because it's almost comic book-like.
It's very serialized.
It's very serialized, and you can know the previous, but they also do a really good job, especially with the regenerations, of letting you kind of come in blind and not miss a beat. They do a really good job with that, especially because like I watched Doctor Who up until like Peter Capaldi and Stephen Moffat. I didn't really like his show running days. There was just something about the tone of the show that didn't vibe with me. So I stopped watching. And I missed several companions and like a whole other doctor. And I was like, it's not the same. And I just came back to it with Nshutigawa and like the current series. And Russell T Davies is the showrunner again, and he's responsible for David Tennant and all those things. So like the fact that I was able to come back and not really have known what happened, although they did a really good job filling me in during the Christmas special, that felt good. And comics, if done right, can do that as well.
Yeah. With manga, it's a lot simpler, in my opinion. Because like even with like a really, really something super long running, like One Piece.
Mhm.
You want to get started on One Piece? Chapter 1, Volume 1. Go ahead. Go ahead. It's right there. And One Piece is also, like, it's been running for the past 20 years. It's all written by one guy. The entire thing's been written by one guy. And we're still moving towards a place. Like, he does have an ending in mind, but it's all written by one guy. When a manga creator leaves their franchise, it is a big deal. The only two I can think of, which are also, like, extremely notable, is Akira Toriyama leaving Dragon Ball due to creative differences. And then there was a very long-running manga called Berserk, which their creator died.
Mm.
And so they made the difficult... I think, I don't know, something with copyright, or maybe he had in his will, but they basically gave it to, I think, one of his friends who was also a writer, who basically was able to revive the series. And again, I'm not into Berserk, so I don't know like the difference in quality between Kentaro Miura and who went on after him. But that was a huge deal. That was a few years back, but it was a huge deal when it happened.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder about this because you're like, it's been one guy.
Mm-hmm.
How long has One Piece been going on?
1997.
So it's as old as me.
Weekly. Yeah.
I'm aging myself right now, but
Yeah.
anyways, it's fine. But do you like? And this is the thing, like, because we talk about like changing showrunners if we want to discuss it in that way, like the way I felt like Russell T Davies, even though he's done the job before, like kind of refreshed Doctor Who for me, and also this season of Doctor Who, or last season anyway, was meant to sort of be a new entry point. Like, do you feel it almost runs the risk? And then granted, there is something to be said for like sticking with your creative vision the entire time, but do you think there's something to be said for like it getting tired or like it not being sustainable to do the same thing for that long?
I mean, there are arguments to be made both ways. Personally, in my opinion, when it comes to readership, when it comes to me, what things I read, I like knowing that there's an author who's just like, yeah, there is a specific ending I have in mind, and I'm just going to do it all the way through.
Well, it's different. They have like a specific ending in mind. I think that's a little different. Like if you going back to the Supernatural thing, like Eric Kripke knew season 1 through 5, he had the vision in mind.
Yeah.
It was just the network that decided they wanted to continue, so he passed it off.
Well, that's kind of similar to what happened with Dragon Ball, because basically Akira Toriyama had a very clear ending point where basically he's just like, oh, because I accepted that like he needs to pass it on to the new generation. And then basically the publishers, as far as I know, are basically just like, no, it's too popular. You can't, we can't let you stop writing.
Oh, so he's like trapped.
He was trapped. He's dead now, unfortunately. Poor guy. He's a phenomenal mangaka, even if I'm not a huge Dragon Ball person. But basically, yeah, so then he went for another couple arcs, and then he ended up leaving because of creative differences. That's basically how they put it, but I have a feeling about where that conversation was basically going. And then they kept basically making Dragon Ball.
I mean, because that makes it sound like there's not an end in sight always. Whereas I feel like comic series, at least in the Western canon, like I do see series as something that are going to have a beginning and an end, and they don't usually have thousands of issues.
Okay, that's the difference between me, because I see it the opposite way. Because when I see a manga, like let's say, because I'm reading Chainsaw Man right now, the majority of the manga I read have clear and definitive endings that they want to put out. There's only a few manga where I'm just like, these were clearly cut short because of low readership and they had to end them soon. But I go into most manga series knowing that there's going to be an end. The only time I go into manga series knowing there's not going to be an end is usually like a slice of life thing or a gag comic, where it's like that's something that can run week to week and you can just kind of keep reinventing it.
Yeah.
With comics, with Western comics specifically, you have your runs. But I see those basically as similar to like an arc of a manga. I don't see them as a definitive beginning or a definitive end because that character is still around and kicking and doing all other stuff.
I mean, they are arcs.
Yes.
I'm not going to deny that. Like, because going back to X-23, just because it's the most recent one, they do pull from that previous history of hers that I did not read.
Yeah.
This is an arc, like they made it very clear, like this is where she's been, this is where she's ended up, this is kind of what her next steps are, and this is what we're gonna do. I don't know how many issues it's gonna be. It was the same thing with Yelena when I picked up White Widow. They were like, this is where she's been, this is what she's doing now, this is her plan, This, you know, so again, like, I do find I can get very self-contained. It was the same thing with when I was reading Captain Marvel Dark Tempest. Like, I was like, okay, there's been a lot of Captain Marvel, I got a lot of stuff to catch up on, but this is the most recent one. And again, it's truly, this is where she's been, this is where she is, and this is the arc we're covering, this is the villain we're covering, things like that. And same with Thunderbolts, even though that's multiple characters and you're kind of pulling from multiple places, although that's a little different because it's episodic, because Thunderbolts, unlike the film, is actually a revolving cast of characters. I did not know this. Like, the only two kind of constants are Bucky Barnes and Valentina, whereas I'm seeing people that aren't in the movie, like people popping up. Shang-Chi made an appearance in this most recent one I read. I was like,
I liked the Shang-Chi movie.
We like
an unpopular opinion, but I liked it.
I don't think that's unpopular. I think people liked it.
I liked him.
It's just he doesn't.
Awkwafina was also good in that.
He hasn't shown up very often, but yeah. So I mean, there's definitely other things. Like, there's arcs, but you can treat it as an arc or you can treat it as self-contained. I don't think it's one thing.
I think that's also the issue with me, is that I have trouble treating those things as self-contained, and unless it's very, very specific circumstances. And I think it's just because there's, again, this is how things are structured, and this is just a preference, a personal preference, not even like necessarily a criticism, because you like the way that this is set up. So it's not even like a real criticism.
I mean, I like dipping in and out.
Yeah.
I like being able to choose to kind of like jump from thing to thing.
And again, that can also be a criticism of manga, because like if you wanted to get into One Piece nowadays, there are over 1,000 chapters of One Piece. And you have to read all of them. I'm only on like chapter, like, I don't think I'm even on after chapter 200 yet. And I've been reading for like about a year now. On and off. I mean, I'm also watching the anime, so I don't want to read past the anime because I'm watching with my dad. But with long running manga, it's like that. But there's also a lot of shorter series that like you can finish within a day, and you'll know that like you've read everything within that series. You kind of know everything's going on with that series. Like, I read Orb on Movements on the Earth, which is so fucking good. If you're interested in manga at all, please read it. If you're interested in anime at all, please watch it. It's on Netflix. It's so good. It just finished up. The OP is excellent. Quick chill moment. But like, I can read all of Orb and know basically like, okay, I know everything that's happening. I don't have to, for example, like, if I was reading something like Tokyo Revengers and the characters are all fighting and stuff like that, I don't have to go, holy shit, is that Goku? And then have to read all of Dragon Ball to understand why Goku is here. That's my issue with a lot of comics like that. I know you don't necessarily have to read that, because usually they do their best to try to make sure everything's cohesive. But I still feel left out of a loop. Like, it's still like a plot thread that nags at me. Especially if like I'm not particularly interested in the character and I just don't know why they're there.
See, like, to me it's just, especially with like superheroes, like, to me it's like you all live here. It's weird because like in the movies, like at least in the MCU, like not everybody knows everybody, whereas in the comics everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times I just kind of assume like, yeah, obviously, because like just like they did Laura Kinney female Daredevil team up, which is Elektra, and I was like, she's in New York, might as well. Like, I kind of, like, had the feeling. I did have a minute of, like, wait, there's a female Daredevil, because I actually did not know that, because I'm just getting into Daredevil. So I did have to kind of, but actually what was nice is that, again, they pull up female Daredevil, they always give you a nice, I don't even know what to call it, they give you a nice intro panel every time someone shows up, even if you don't, I know, most recent Laura Kinney, Bucky Barnes shows up, and I was like, yeah, I know who that is, and I know... But also because like people change code names so often, they'll give you like an updated code name, because right now Bucky Barnes goes by the Revolution in the comics. So I was like, okay, cool.
He's a comrade.
It's not Comrade. No. It's Revolution. He's the Revolution.
He's a comrade, but he's not a comrade.
No, if you want a comrade, that's Red Guardian.
There's too many fucking names in this.
It's Red Guardian. You'll like him. In Thunderbolts.
Is he in Thunderbolts?
He is in Thunderbolts.
Okay.
Yes, you'll like Red Guardian.
All right, we'll see.
Red Guardian is Yelena's dad.
I see.
Or his, I guess, they were part of like a sleeper cell family together, so he's kind of her dad. But we love Red Guardian. Anyway.
He's dad coded.
He's very dad coded. So we love him. But yeah, like, I do like Marvel. I DC might do this too. I have to get into DC. I'm sorry. Marvel is kind of my number one.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like, they do give me like a rundown. Like, that's why I found out, I was like, female Daredevil. What are you talking about? Who is that? And then it was like Elektra. And I was like, oh, Elektra took up the mantle. Like, you make the little connections. I don't have to go. And also, there wasn't too many plot points involving her specifically where I had to be like, in reference to this comic or whatever. Occasionally, they will tell you which one it references.
Yeah, I mean, that used to happen with the Sonic comics, which
but that's occasional. They tend to not talk about anything outside the series itself. Yeah.
I mean, I just personally I just prefer stuff when it's self-contained. And I find a lot of hero stuff tends to... You guys love your crossovers.
Oh, we love a crossover.
You guys, you love your crossovers. And again, this is a personal preference thing. It's not... Like, if you like it, then all the power to you. All the superpowers to you. But I like having my, like, self-contained where, like, I know that this is going to end, and I know that I'm going to basically see this artist's vision through. Like, when Tokyo Revengers ended, and I sobbed like a little bitch baby. Or I'm gonna cry when Chainsaw Man ends. There's a lot of, like, I can rely on these being updated every week, provided the artist doesn't go on hiatus. But... I know that it's gonna end someday. I'm a very firm believer. I love an ending. Like, a good, satisfying ending. And that, I feel, doesn't happen a lot with a lot of American, specifically superhero comics. Because there's a wide range of American comics out there. But specifically with superhero comics, it's because the characters technically don't belong to the writers. They belong to the company. And the company has to continue to make money off of these characters. So, like, if Superman dies, he's gonna come back somewhere else. Yeah. If Batman dies, he's gonna come back somewhere else. Like, if there's a world-ending threat, the world's gonna get revived at some point. Yeah. You can't have a definitive...
You can't have stakes.
You can't have stakes. Exactly. That's another thing that bothers me.
Yeah, it's... Yeah, I mean, like, I can understand that. I do think there's a sense of, like, comfort to that, in a way. Consistency. Also, like, again, because, like, let's say, like, the movies don't follow the comics, and they did give us stakes in the case of Marvel, like, those main five are not a thing anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I will give them credit for that. They had the balls to kill off, basically, the majority of the original Avengers.
Yes. But then there's, like, aspects of fans who are kind of, like, oh, there was some missed potential here, because I would have loved to see these people interact. And so, like, for example, like, Tony Stark is obviously no longer with us. Yeah. In the comics, he and Captain Marvel are really tight. And I was like, man, we got 2 scenes. I was like, I kind of wish we got more of that. So I sometimes see, like, Marvel comics specifically as almost weirdly like fan fiction.
But it's canon. I feel the same way. And that I think is the difference between... Because when I like fan fiction, I like it because it's fan fiction. And I know I can refer back to canon. Like, let's say if this person just like, this character's an asshole. And I'll be like, no, they're not. Look at the script of the game you're playing. I can say that. With comics, it's very, like, there's multiple different canons. Yeah. And, like, almost on a whim, they can just be like, okay, and this is a new canon. This is a new Earth. This is Earth 616. This is Earth 722. This is Earth... blah, blah, and so there's no consistency, kind of, to how things are laid out. And again, it's just, they're long-running characters. They have to keep these characters long-running, which makes your head hurt a little bit sometimes if you're trying to figure out, like, what relates to what. And then they do multiverses.
I mean, I can understand that. There's also, like, again, a matter of, like, with fan fiction, there are headcanons. And there are things where you're just like, I believe this, and this is my version of the story. And actually, like, Marvel fanfiction, like, canon compliance is, like, non-existent. That's, like, not a thing. Every single time I've read any kind of, like...
the liberty of that, because there's so many different types of canon.
I think that's, like, kind of what makes it nice, because I was like, yeah, in fanfiction you get headcanons. I do kind of like that with comics. You can kind of be like, I can choose to like this and ignore this stuff. Yeah. And I'm right. It's all right. I do think there's this, I mean, there's obviously infighting and things like that, and I don't know enough other comic readers where we have, like, discussions about it. Thank you for knocking your water over. There's really, like, only one guy at work, like, where we've actually talked about things, and he's basically the deepest we've gotten is him discussing, like, what his favorite version of Superman or Batman is. Because, again, like, I was like, where would I start with Superman? Like, because obviously we got Superman Legacy coming.
Why don't you start with issue 1 from back in the 40s?
Well, I've been told, so, like, again, I've been told, like, Superman, this one is
Mhm.
based off All-Star Superman. So I'm like, okay, that's where my attention can go.
Yeah.
Because, again, like, Superman's been around forever. So it's, and I do agree, like, it gets a little overwhelming, but also with me, like, and I know you love being such a completionist when it comes to things, where for me, I'm just like, what do I need to know to get in the door?
That's fair.
That's kind of where I'm at, because, like, when Spider-Man No Way Home came out, I got really into the Spider-Verse in general, and Jessica Drew struck my fancy.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, has she been around, like, recently, or has she been around for a while? Because there's new characters and old characters. And so I did have to find, like, a YouTube video of someone who knew more than me, and she was like, this is everything you need to know about Jessica Drew. And she, like, broke it down for me, like, what the main things you need to know about. My favorite fact was, like, one of, like, this is, like, a thing from the old comics, and I don't think that they do this anymore. She literally emits a pheromone that, like, repels men.
Oh, God, I wish that were me.
I was like, relatable. So that was my favorite fact that I learned from that video. But yeah, with Laura Kinney, when I was like, oh, I want to start with Laura Kinney, but it's the newest issue, I did watch just like an hour breakdown where she was like, this is where she started, this is all the shit that happened, these are her ships, I don't like any of them. The person who was like doing the video, she was like, all of them are weird, I don't like any of them. And like that was nice. And then she was like, this is what happened, and now we're doing, and it was from a year ago. So at very least I knew like what was happening going in, and I knew when they referred to like one thing, I was like, that's because of that thing.
I mean, I think we just come at it with different approaches, because, and I think this is also probably the gamer in me, the oppressed gamer in me, but because I come from a completionist standpoint, I like discovering things on my own. And so when I'm starting something, I don't want to have to do a whole bunch of research to know where specifically to get in. I like being able to just, you know, pick up something and just know it. And know that I'm gonna get everything. I think the other thing is that, like, because you were talking about how, like, you like the fact that you can just kind of like, you can just be like, I don't like this aspect of it, so I'm gonna focus on this aspect of it. And that you really like that. I personally, and this is my personal preference, I would rather, like, read something that has a horrible, shitty ending that I don't agree with than just be like, well, I can just ignore that and go on to this other version of it.
Well, you don't get another version of it.
Yeah, but I'd prefer that, because I'd rather see the author's own vision for it than to just be like, but the author be like, I wrote the same characters, but this ending.
See, you know, because you like one answer, though. I like all the answers.
Yeah, I know.
I think this is probably, like, the difference between, like, the ADHD and the autism, because, like...
I'm very autistic.
You, like, not an easy answer, but, like, a very clear answer, whereas for me, I'm just like, well, I can jump into this, and I can jump into this, and I can ignore these characters, and I can do whatever, like I explained to you, like, even, like, how I engage with the MCU now, like, I can't do all of it, so I kind of go through, like, I like this character, this character, this character, this character. If I have to go into something, and then I'll watch the major movies, which tend to just tie stuff together. TV, I have to kind of pick and choose. But then, like, if I need to know something going into the next one that maybe I missed on one of the television shows, there's some dude on the internet who's going to tell me, like, remember this, remember this, remember this. And I'm like, cool, go into the thing, and I don't feel like I've skipped a beat. Like, yeah.
I mean, I can understand it from, because I've also, like, I've played gacha games in the past, and those have mountains and mountains and mountains and mountains and mountains of content. So, like, I can understand from that point, because when I used to play Genshin Impact, I used to be a huge lore nerd, and I used to have to go and, like, figure out what other people piece together and what I piece together. But nowadays, I think I'm just more of the... My preference leans more towards, I like knowing that something has an ending, and then knowing I can, like, okay, I can go back and, like, okay, now I have renewed context for this, and now I can analyze it further. Like... It's just like, okay, I can see the end of the lake, let's see how deep it goes. Rather than, let's find another lake.
Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, like, I mean, but I can't say that there's, like, with my version, there's no, like, room for analysis.
Like, not saying that,
Yeah, and again, like, I have to say, like, I think with superheroes specifically, I can kind of get a best of both worlds. If I want a definitive ending, I go to the MCU. The Infinity Stones happened. I can't stop that. Tony Stark is gone. Cap is gone. I can't change it.
Natasha's gone,
unfortunately. And like, you know, I know people have been begging to bring him back, and I'm sure at some point Chris Evans is gonna get dragged into something. I just know
he's already the Human Torch again.
He's already the Human Torch again. But that was funny. Like,
yeah,
I feel like he's gonna get dragged in some kind of official way very soon, because I do think Marvel is a little scared. But I was like, if I want my definitive ending, and then I can now look at this thing and go back and find deeper meaning and things like that. Because also, when I first engaged with this, I wasn't really going as deep on it, because this was kind of my peripheral fandom. Like, I didn't get to be part of the 2012 Avengers Tower fanfic era.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting a little bit more of that because people are sort of bringing it back. But
those old N.D. Stevenson cartoons, by the way, phenomenal.
Love those.
Love N.D. Stevenson.
I find those on Pinterest from time to time. Those are great. But like, yeah, before, like, I couldn't really go deep on them, and like, I don't think I knew what I was witnessing at the time. Like, I do feel like sometimes I wish I could go back and like appreciate getting to experience it when it was happening. So I like that I get to like go back and look at that. But I also love the fact that I now have the comics and I can expand it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even like I can see the end of the lake, let's see how deep it goes. Now I'm like, let's just make the lake bigger. Let's just make the lake deeper and bigger.
That's fair. That is fair, because there are some times where, like, I will like a spin-off. Going to games for a quick second, because games are very... I approach games in a very, very similar way, where I really, really love an RPG, which are very, very, very long. And, like, I love Persona, and they have a whole bunch of spin-offs. And they're very dubiously canon. Like, you can basically just go by a game canon, or you can add the spin-offs into it. Personally, I think the spin-offs make things messy. But again, if you want to go deeper on it, they are there. Or there's the manga, the anime, there's bonus comics. There's a bonus comic based on Yosuke, which is really good. And so, like, I understand, like, wanting more stuff, but it's also, like, Persona 5 came out in 2016. We still have no word about when Persona 6 is coming out, and they just keep pumping out spin-offs. And I'm like, I am so ready for the Phantom Thieves to die. Not because I don't like them, but it's because eventually there's a term seasonal rot, where it's just like, you feel like everything's been said already. And that, to me, like, I wonder, like, it's superhero, because, like, I could find the things that, like, superheroes would say, but then it's like, I can find 3 dozen things saying the same thing that don't necessarily involve characters where I have to learn more stuff about them. Where's I going with this? There's also another aspect of gaming. I was rewatching some Scott the Woz videos, and there's one where he talks about how he doesn't like JRPGs, or just RPGs in general. And one of the main arguments he brings up is that he likes arcadey style games. He's like, why would I play one 50-hour game when I could play 5 10-hour games? And I think I'm very similar kind of with Marvel, whereas, like, should I invest all my time into this one franchise, into this one character, into this one group of characters, this one storyline, stuff like that, for several months at a time, when I could read these shorter ones that might do more for me, might add more to my literary diet than just pursuing the same thing over and over again.
See, I would argue it's not the same thing over and over again. I granted, like, yes, like, Marvel is all one thing, but again, I say it spans in tone and it spans
Yeah. I understand that.
And again, like, it's as much or as little as you put into it.
I know.
So that's kind of how I sit with this. Like, going back to Doctor Who for a second, because Doctor Who, that the joke is that the fandom's bigger on the inside. And someone else made the joke that, like, they're like, Doctor Who's weird because there's always going to be a 60-year-old man who knows more than you, because the show has been around for 60 years. Yeah. And again, it's as much or as little you want to put into it. I have seen Matt Smith up to Peter Capaldi and David Tennant, and then I went back and watched Christopher Eccleston. I actually watched Doctor Who backwards, which if you're going to watch any show backwards, that's the show.
Yeah. All that timey-wimey stuff.
All that timey-wimey stuff. Well, yeah, and actually it was kind of helpful. I actually found, like, watching it that way was almost, like, added to it, because I watched all of Matt Smith that was available at the time, and then I was like, well, I gotta go watch David Tennant. He's iconic. Everyone talks about him. So I went and watched David Tennant, and he's talking to he talked to Donna, because Donna actually didn't know about a lot of the stuff that happened, and he was like, you don't remember this thing that happened, blah blah blah, and he was referring to stuff that was happening when he was 9, and I'm like, nope, don't know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. And turns out, and actually it kind of helped because it puts you in her shoes a little bit. Like, it's actually weird watching Doctor Who backwards because you have no context for anything, so you do feel like you're in the character's, the companion's shoes, essentially. But I have not seen anything from the 60s. I've not seen, like, anything from classic Who, as they call it. I've never seen any of that. I've listened to none of the radio dramas. I've read none of the comics. I've not read any of the books. I've not, like, there's so much stuff that's probably, like, somewhat canon compliant, but maybe not. I have no idea. And I've kind of, like, learned to be, like, okay with that. And similar with, like, Sherlock Holmes. Like, again, that thing is 100 years old. Over 100 years old.
The older the fandom is, the more okay you have to be with not knowing.
And Marvel is also incredibly old.
Yes.
So I think it's one of those things where, like, I know you're such a completionist, but sometimes I just, like, think there's certain things where maybe you just have to be like, there's more than I could ever look at in a lifetime. I just need to, like, find the things I connect with and just run with it. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
I mean, yeah, I can come across it. Maybe just because manga is such a newer medium in the West that it feels easier for me to get into. But again, there's also, like, long-running game franchises that I would love to get into. I still have not played any Final Fantasies, and I would love to play a Final Fantasy. I literally have 15 on my shelf right now, and I have not touched it yet. Or, like, Kingdom Hearts. I was trying to get into Kingdom Hearts, and I still haven't completed the first game. These really long-running game franchises with really, really complex plots. Well, Final Fantasy, everything's self-contained, but... And I just kind of have to accept that, like, I'm not gonna know everything that comes in. Or, like, there was one time where I'm just like, I don't like fighting games, but I like the BlazBlue characters, so why don't I just learn their lore? And it turns out their wiki pages are the length of fucking Wikipedia itself. So, there are some times where I have to be content with not knowing, but I personally love it when it's just like, here's everything you can ever know about this character, now fill in the gaps. I like that.
I mean, I like that too.
Yeah.
And also, like, I do think with something as vast as, like, the Marvel Universe, the DC Universe, I think you still can kind of do that because it's vast.
But I think for me, it loses its luster because it's just like, I'd be like, I have this specific headcanon of, let's say, Bucky Barnes. And then I find out, like, a comic has done it already. And I'm like, part of me is just like, I wanted to be the first.
Oh, okay. You want it to be, like, your private little...
Yeah, I do like having my own private little, like, versions of things. That's another thing where it's just like, when characters are so long running, eventually plots start repeating.
Yeah, and I mean, I haven't gotten to the point where I've run across that yet.
Yeah.
Because again, like, I really haven't read multiple versions of anybody yet. Maybe Captain Marvel. I have to say Captain Marvel has been pretty consistent across no matter, like, who's writing her. Yeah, I mean, again, I haven't run across it, and sometimes I wonder if, like, maybe it is so vast that I may not run into it.
Yeah.
Who knows? When I picture the Marvel Universe, weirdly, I picture that scene from the second Spider-Verse movie. With all the Spideys.
All them pointing at each other?
All of them pointing, but also, like, when they're going by and, like, some of them are kind of in jail in boxes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm picturing, and I don't know why.
I mean, I love Spider-Verse, but I was talking with my friend Abby about Spider-Verse the other day. And, I kind of, like, I kind of went over just, like, the Spider-Verse is great, but it also kind of clearly depicts one of my biggest issues with superheroes, the fact that they keep making more of them. They keep making more of them, specifically Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
In this one, because I'm just like... And I this was also something I was seeing, actually, because I went on the comic books Reddit today, just to see, like, let's see how the other half lives. And one of the complaints that people had is just, like, they keep making more versions of the same people. And when a lot of people would rather them just make new people.
I agree with this, actually. Because I'm an actor. And one of the things Dad and I do is he bought, when we were in LA a few years ago, we went to LA the week Captain Marvel opened, and we got to go to Disneyland, and there was, like, a whole thing. But Dad bought the Marvel encyclopedia with
I've seen it on his shelf.
Yeah, it's like every Marvel at the time. This was 2019, so every Marvel character ever, essentially, in the comics. And the joke was we'd pull it out and we'd go through and we'd look at their stats and figure out who could I play in the Marvel Universe if they ever decided to adapt.
Wasn't it the Wasp was one of the ones you decided
the Wasps came up and all versions of the Wasp. And I'm like, they've done the Wasp.
Yeah.
It's Hope. And
Paul
her
Rudd.
mom. It's Paul Rudd.
It's Nintendo commercial star Paul Rudd.
So it was like that, and I was like, oh, okay. And then sometimes I will go on like Marvel.com because it has the most up-to-date list of every single character, and I will go through and I will look and I will see. And also it has everybody, even like these civilians with names. Like it has everyone. And I'm like going through and I'm going through. And again, it's like there are so many, again, iterations of people. Weirdly not as many spider people as I was expecting.
Did you see Spider-Verse?
I saw Spider-Verse, but I think some of them were created for
Fair enough. Yeah.
Spider-Verse.
There were a lot of them.
There were a lot. I don't recall there being this many. But there was a lot of, like, cloning is a really big thing in the universe.
Yeah.
So, like, Laura Kinney is obviously a clone of Logan. Like, she's not a direct, like, his kid or anything, but his DNA was used to make
They're
her.
like identical twins.
Jessica Drew was a clone of Peter Parker in one version.
Yeah.
So, like, there's a lot of this. There was also, I saw one named, this was so random. It was Ricky Barnes, who is a variant of Bucky Barnes who's female.
Okay.
And I was like, can I play her? Like,
Yeah.
she, I think, shows up in, like, one comic. Like, it's just things like, and I do agree that I'm not a fan of, like, them just making different versions of the same character. I wish we'd come up with, like, a new thing. Like,
I think it's a company thing. Like, I don't think it's a writer's thing.
I don't think it's a writer's thing.
I think it's more like, let's say for the sake of argument,
Mhm.
writer comes up with this cool new character, they bring it up to the suits, and the suits are just like, sure, but you have to make them a Spider-Man, or you have to make them a Cap variant, or you have to make them a Bucky variant, or whatever.
Yeah, like, you have to create, they have to tie back to the main people somehow. And I get that a lot of, like, these characters that we are spinning off are, like, Stan Lee originals. Like, Daredevil, Captain America, all of these, like, were Stan Lee's thing. I get that. But I'm also going through and I'm trying to think, like, what was, like, the newest one that, like, wasn't a thing of, like, a thing of something else?
Squirrel Girl?
That's literally the one I thought of, was Squirrel Girl. I was like, yeah, like, she's, as far as I know, and I haven't read any of her comics, she's not tied to anything prior to her.
Can I talk about Squirrel Girl for a second, though?
Yes.
Because when I was a kid, I had the Nickelodeon magazine. I would get that delivered to my house every month. This is related. And every issue would have a theme, and one of them was superheroes. And so they had a fake ad for a bunch of new superhero comics. And this was back in, like, 2008, 2009. Bunch of fake superhero comics. And one of them was Squirrel Girl, and it looked just like her.
I'm looking her up. Squirrel Girl, superhero, appearing in American Comic Books published by Marvel Comics. Created by writer Will Murray and writer-artist Steve Ditko, who was worked with...
Of course, Ditko.
Yeah. The character first appeared in Marvel Superheroes Volume 2, number 8, a.k.a. Marvel Superheroes Winter Special.
What year? Give me
see.
her year.
She has been active since 1991. So actually, she's not that recent.
Wait, like legit?
First appearance, Marvel Superheroes Volume 2, number 8, Winter 1991.
Wow.
So she's been around.
I thought Nickelodeon just made her up. Because, like, there was other fake superheroes. Maybe I have to pull up that issue. I still have all my Nick magazines.
She showed up in that, which was a one-off, I think. And then they tried to pitch up a follow-up where she tries to join the Fantastic Four, but it was turned down.
I wonder if it was, like, one where it's just like, guess the real superhero. And it was Squirrel Girl would be the real superhero out of the three of them. Because the other two, I don't remember very well, but they were also absurd.
She also doesn't, like, it looks like she doesn't show up in her own...
She doesn't have her own series?
She doesn't get her own, like, real series until, like, 2005, where she gets, like, a 4-issue miniseries.
And now she's in Marvel Rivals, and now everyone thinks she's hot.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, Unbeatable Squirrel Girl is kind of when she came front and center. That was 2014.
I'm gonna have to dig up this Nick magazine and show it to you.
I don't think they copyrighted it, maybe.
I swear to God. Like, oh my God.
This is, we might have uncovered a conspiracy.
Bring back children's magazines, by the way. Just bring him back.
back. I wish I could find.
I will find the comic and I will show it to you. I'll have to dig through it at Dad's.
I'm looking through it. Like, I tried to look up, like, Squirrel Girl Nickelodeon magazine, and it's not coming up.
I swear to God. Yeah, I swear to God.
But yeah, going back to the subject at hand, I do agree. I wish something new would come out. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, like, you get something like Ms. Marvel.
Yeah, I remember.
Which Ms. Marvel, the mantle has been around for years. Yes. For decades. But Kamala Khan is such a fresh take on it.
She was like 2014, wasn't she?
Yeah. So, but she was such a fresh take on it that it feels like a new thing. So I do think there is something to be said for, like...
or Ironheart, too. Because Ironheart was fairly recent.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they're like... Ironheart, and at least in the MCU, she's not tied to Iron Man. She actually showed up in another series that had nothing to do with Iron Man.
She's Iron.
I know, this doesn't make any sense to me either. I think maybe in the comics she's a little more tied to Iron Man. I'm not sure. But yeah, I do agree with you there that I wish they would come up with, like, something new. Now, granted, with the spider people, I will argue, like, one thing. The whole point of Spider-Man was, like, anybody can be under the mask.
I will raise you this argument, though.
Okay.
Did that become the perception after they started making more spider people or before?
I'm not sure. I'd have to actually check where that thing came up because I feel like I've seen it said somewhere by the creator. Like, I think I've seen it said, like, prior to Spider-Verse. Where they were like, the whole idea is, like, it can be anybody, which is why I think they were specific about, like, the suit being full body and you can't see his face. I think that was, like, a whole point, was they were like, it needs to be anybody.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can understand, like, I can see both sides, but yeah.
With manga, it's basically just, like, again, like, people do parodies, and people will, like, like, fucking Rey from Evangelion has been parodied a million times. But it's not very often that you see characters that are just, you don't see reboots very often. I mean, maybe in it really depends on the series. I wouldn't say it's completely out unheard of, because, like, Gundam has just been rebooted again. Dragon Ball has, like, had soft reboots over and over again, but again, some of those were after Toriyama left. But it's more common just for a manga to just run for a period of time and then end, and then that's it. Maybe some spin-off content, but other than that, it's gone. It's done, and there's no real... I wouldn't say there's no real reason to come back to those characters, because sometimes people will come back to them years later. But for the most part, most manga artists just want to finish that comic and get done with it. Someone who comes to mind is Tatsuya Endo, who did Spy Family, who's just like, I can't believe it was this one that got popular out of all the things I've written. I need to read his older works. I have them on my desk right now. But yeah, so I don't know. There's a lot of differences between comics and anime, and we also have different comics and manga, and I think we just have a lot of different preferences on how we pursue media as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that completionist, like, one answer mindset versus multiple answer mindset.
Yeah, because I like, again, it's another ADHD thing, which my therapist had to explain to me, actually, where she was just like, she's like, most people, like, can, when they talk about, like, making grooves in your brain, like, paths, she's like, most people, like, eventually, if they, like, end up sticking with something, the other grooves will kind of get paved over, and, like, it doesn't work. She's like, it's never really fully gone. Like, you're really good at, like, going in multiple directions. You could look at it from all angles. And I think that's, like, the beauty of, like, Marvel for me, is because it's just a bunch of different people telling not the same exact story, but, like, it's just, you get to see so many different takes on the same thing. And also watching it, like, even just from an anthropological standpoint, or a sociological standpoint, I guess, watching... Because I know you're like, oh, there's some stuff that might have been said already, but it's really interesting to watch, like, what a Marvel comic says about society in 1944 versus what it says in 2025.
But I also, to make the argument, you could also just read something that's not Marvel from the same time period and kind of get to the same answer.
You could, but it's different because, like, if you think about it scientifically, it's the same thing put in two different places. Because, like, it was really interesting, like, picking up Captain Marvel Dark Tempest, and, like, for once, this was the first time I saw in a comic book where, like, the public was really not enamored with her at all. They were just kind of like, why should we care if you save the world? Because they put real world issues in it where they're just like climate change is a thing in there, like all the same issues we have is there, it's just superheroes. But they're just like, I don't understand why you're trying to be so like optimistic and save the world and blah blah blah. We're doomed. Yeah, like it was really interesting seeing her like come up against like apathetic teenagers essentially and being like, this is like the first time I'm seeing it not work. Like this is like, and that's a really interesting take.
That is an interesting take.
Yeah. So I mean, and again, like the difference between like Captain America in the 1940s, we needed a very specific type of thing. Guys who punches Nazis. Although actually this year the Marvel Voices Pride comic involves a bunch of queer Marvel superheroes punching a Nazi. As they should. But yeah, it's again, like, it's like that scientific control group. Like, how often do you get the same character in two different time periods for real? Like,
that is fair. You could also say the same for Sherlock Holmes, which you also love.
You could say the same for Sherlock Holmes.
Because like there's not a very similar equivalent in manga, because manga is a lot newer of a medium than American comics, because manga came out of American comics. I mean, the grandfather of manga, Osamu Tezuka, was inspired by Disney cartoons. So, I would love to introduce Walt Disney to anime. But that's another episode for another day. But it's such a newer medium that, like, even when you have these, like, long-running series, they're not, like, literally, like, the only thing I can think of, like, anime or manga-wise that's still running from, like, the 60s is Suzae-san, which is, like, literally a 5-minute slice-of-life cartoon that airs on Saturday mornings. And that's not really something you use to make commentary. No. She also plays a rock, paper, scissors with you at the end of the episode. Cute. Yeah, she's very cute. I should actually watch them for stuff, but yeah. There's a lot of different cultural stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that was, I don't know, was that a debate? I don't know if that was a debate.
It was a discussion.
It was a discussion. Yeah, we figured this would be like more fun to do than like.
We're Greek philosophers in the atrium. What's it called?
Isn't this the Socratic
method? The Athenaeum.
Is that it?
I'm gonna assume that.
My knowledge of that is from the Spaceship Earth ride at Disney World.
We're Socratic students in some sort of circle.
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah, so we figured we'd talk about the titles, and then we were going to discuss our differences in tastes. All right, so we are going to go ahead and sign off for this week. So before we go, check out your local comic book shop this May 3rd.
They've got 46 titles. You have to find something.
You got to find something.
That's your homework for this week.
Yeah, look up your local comic shop. Chains do not participate. So like make sure you are looking for local comics. Comics and collectible shop. The next thing, go to freecomicbookday.com/catalog if you want to check out the titles.
I also do think they offer the titles sometimes on comic reader apps as well.
Okay, yeah, so check into those as well if there's nothing near you. And then, Ren, you just wanted to make sure that people got the title of the graphic novel you were talking about.
The graphic novel I got last year is called How to Completely Lose Your Mind, and it's by Elizabeth Jancewicz. I'm gonna assume that's how it's pronounced.
We'll put it in the show notes as well.
Eric Stevenson, and it is very, very good, and they're very, very nice people, so...
And last but not least, just another plug here. We do now have an official Instagram. It's Kill Your Normie Pod. You can go find us there. We'll be posting clips from episodes, but also when we go to events and things, movies,
all that kind of
conventions. We've got some stuff on the docket, so we'll be posting photos and little like vlogs and reels and things like that. So we're starting to build up our social media presence, but go follow us over there. We'll put it in the show notes as well.
All right. Stay cool, guys. Especially because it's getting warmer out.
We'll see you in 2 weeks. Next episode is going to be Thunderbolts.
Oh, God.
I'll either be super happy or crying. We don't know.
Flip a coin.